Yep,
There you go.
it's working now. Thank you. Okay, so we are live. So welcome everyone on April 22, Node.js Diagnostic Working Group meetings. We have a good number of attendees, 7. Before we dig into the agenda, there was some conversation on the today issue, which is quite fair because I promised many times the next one will be a deep dive, and then we have so many items now that we are just pushing this deep dive out and jumping on the items. So because we have lots of items today, we can do that again, but maybe it's worth discussing. There was some recommendation like doing 1 week deep dive, one like more frequent meeting basically, or separate deep dive. I don't know if anyone has a preference how to get back to the deep dive. But
yeah, I guess the very reason why we shifted to the 2 weeks format is because in 1 week, not many people were present. Right now, looks like things have changed and we have a steady number of attendees in a consistent manner for quite some time. So I don't mind switching to a 1 week format if others agree.
I'm fine with one.
So one way could be a weekly format. Another way would be we just create special deep dives. I guess it's the same basically. I don't know.
You mean stick to the bi-weekly format, but
have a special like time, I don't know, but it's basically the same than we would do.
We could just add to the calendar, like it could be same time, the alternate weeks, and just say like diagnostics deep dive. The only thing that wouldn't happen is that wouldn't necessarily create an issue in the repo. I don't know if that, like if we name it differently, it wouldn't create an issue necessarily, but I'm not sure we need one or.
Okay, should we try then that we also meet next week before we make a decision to turn to weekly? And do a deep dive next week, and then a week after that doing again a normal agenda?
Works for me.
Good. If we don't have any items on the agenda, we can skip them. We do that on other working groups as well.
Okay, so maybe saying that like we are meeting every week, but 1 week will be highly skipped if there is no topic.
Yeah, I would rather have too much time and than run out of time.
Okay.
Okay, so should I put into the calendar something which is the alternate weeks?
Sounds like.
Okay.
Okay, thanks for bringing this up. This was a very valid point. Okay, the next topic, which now we are switching back to the actual agenda from the issue. Before we do that, actually, a question to everyone in this call. Is there any other agenda item that is not on the issue and we should discuss it? You can always bring it up. Just I ask it now if we need to carve out extra time for that. So it looks like we don't have anything from the main Node.js repo tagged as diagnostic, so we can switch to the diagnostic related things immediately. And the first one is self-nomination to diagnostic working group. So it's a nomination, everyone approved it. Then I don't see much action item here. Is there anyone who sees it differently?
I think it was just on the agenda because that's what the governance says. So
Oh, okay.
now that it's been there, it's probably like approved and can land. I'll be back in 1 minute.
Okay. Maybe I will just, someone already commented, I see. No, that's just an approval. Okay. Okay, then welcome in the working group. And I see, Harshita, that you are on the call. Actually, now that you're becoming part of the working group, I'm wondering if just you want to share in a couple of sentences, like what you are doing, what's your main interest. Sorry if you earlier shared it. I'm really bad with name memories.
No, it's correct. I am an intern working with Girish. So I have been contributing to Node code for a while. Now I'm interested in diagnostics as well. So I wanted to learn many aspects of diagnostics. And my main objectives will be like contributing more on the diagnostic content and then learn tools and contribute towards tooling improvement.
Okay, cool. Is there any specific area that you would like to learn more, involved more? I mean, you don't have to decide now, just I'm interested.
I'm currently interested in report heap profiling.
Okay, thank you. Then welcome, and thanks for joining us. Next action item. This is just a running issue about the COVID-19 situation. If anyone needs some help, something, or changing meeting frequency or anything like that. So if you have anything to share, then like you can always share it on the issue, or you can now share with us. Otherwise, I will just jump to the next one. Sounds like no update on that one. Okay, elevating diagnostic reports.
Sorry, on that one, I just asked, I was on mute, but like, do we still need to have it open? I think it was like a good question to ask, but.
So last time we discussed this and we decided we are going to open basically until the situation happening, just to give a platform for people to comment.
Got it, okay.
Yeah, the point is originally we discussed this and thought of opening an issue and see if people are having business as usual, we could just close it. But then now if you see the situation, it's quite dynamic and it's not, if you see the graph, right, it's still relevant, things can change. So it makes sense to keep it a while, keep it open for a while, in my opinion.
Okay. Yeah, no problem, just asking. Understood now.
Okay, thanks for chiming in, Girish. Then let's see the diagnostic tier. Do you want to talk about this, Girish? What's the current situation?
Yeah, so the process was we first proposed in the diagnostic working group, got the recommendation, then I raised as a PR in the core repo. There was a couple of comments, I addressed that. I got one approval. Ideally, based on the process, I could land that after waiting for 7 days with one approval. But the best practice says that at least 2 approvals. So I'm just waiting to see the next second approval to come in.
I'm just trying to remember if I approved that or not.
You made a comment about putting back the node report onto the unclassified section,
Okay.
and I did that. So
Okay.
I think
I'll go
your
back and.
approval is pending.
Okay. Thanks. That's what I wanted to know if I needed to go back and look.
Yeah, your approval will make it author ready.
Okay. Thanks. I'm just looking for the PR now. Right.
Okay, then it sounds like this is happening, and I guess Michael will approve if he's happy with it. Do we need to raise to more people, or is it fine, the 2 approval?
Theoretically, 2 approvals are enough, but yeah, more endorsements or more review comments coming from team members in the diagnostic working group is always good. So feel free to comment.
So this is the pull request in the main repo, right? This one?
I just pinged in the chat 32732.
Yeah, I just went ahead and approved it.
Okay.
I'm just wondering if like pinging again people or something like just to raise the visibility, even if it's fine too.
Thanks.
Okay. So this looks like it's also going. Report version semantics are not defined. If I remember correctly, then like the last phase was that Mateusz said that he's going to propose something around how the schema could be mapped to versioning. I'm not sure if there anything happened since that. Mateusz, did you have a time to put any thoughts into that? Or actually, he's not in the call. Is he in the call? He's in the call.
No.
Okay, sorry.
No, I forgot. I'm gonna try to do it after the meeting.
Okay.
This is one item I raised in one of the issues, actually. We create action items in the agenda, but I feel like they get lost because we move from Google Docs to GitHub. So it's easy to forget if you have an action item there.
Yes, we discussed this last time, and I promised I'm going to do things to make it better, and I didn't do anything. So this is at the moment totally on me. I kind of don't remember what we discussed, but I'm pulling up in the meantime the last note. Now we have more people, so maybe it was running it again, just like what we decided makes sense or not. Yes. So yeah, multiple people were agreeing with it. Yes, Steven had this idea that like maybe instead of assigning action items to people, we should go back to the champion structure with some kind of timeline, because it can totally happen that like someone is more available for 3 months and after that less available. That was one idea. And what I promised and I didn't do is going through the old meeting notes and kind of trying to collect action items from long time, and then we could kind of put it in the next meeting notes and just like having this running track of action items. Yeah, that's what we discussed last time. I don't know what other people who wasn't here last time have a thoughts about this. Okay, I take the silence as a no. Okay, then, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Is it about the report semantic versioning or about the agenda
no,
action
sorry.
follow?
Yes, sorry, it's about the action item follow.
Action item follow-up. Okay.
Yep. So it sounds like Mateusz will just jump into this, and I am still owning to the group to collect all the action items as a reminder.
Okay.
Next one, user journeys. We just discussed it at the beginning of this talk, that like next week, which is April 29. We will do a deep dive. Could someone remind me? I know we agreed multiple meetings what we are going to do next, but today my brain is not working. I think it was either CPU profile or memory. I don't remember. I think it was CPU, right?
I think it was CPU profile.
Okay. So that's what we are going to discuss next week at the same time, and Michael will set up a calendar for us. Thank you.
Calendar entry is already in the calendar.
Thank you. Perfect.
But there'll be no issue generated in the repo, so we'll just have to remember from that perspective.
Okay, thank you. Not CPU profiling roadmap. I don't know who created this. I'm just asking if there is anyone who can give a good summary about it.
Yeah, that was me. So this issue was not reopened. We started discussing again on the issue a few weeks ago about what's the proper way to do CPU profiling on Node.js, and right now it's not clear for users which tools are available, which tools are supported, which tools work, which tools doesn't work. And there are some concerns about performance for the V8 CPU profile, which has been raised 2 years ago or 3 years ago, but we never tackled it. The thing is, CPU profiling will always happen on V8. It's not something that we can implement in Node.js because we don't have access to the information needed to generate a CPU profile. And because of that, if we want to improve the situation, make the tool more production safe, speaking of V8 CPU profile, if you want to make V8 CPU profile more production safe, we need to engage with the V8 team again. And so I added the issue on the agenda to discuss how we can start engaging again with V8 team. Not only for the V8 CPU profiling, but for other diagnostic related tools. Because for several tools, we need engagement or contribution from V8.
Right, or maybe APIs or
maybe APIs, yes.
I mean, I guess in theory, we can contribute those to V8 as well, but at very least, we want to know that the V8 team is going to take them.
Yes.
Before we jump into the V8 collaboration, the first points what you raised around like confusion with people, like which tools are supported, how they work, those kind of things. I think that's actually the next week conversation will be a great starting point.
Yeah.
And about the V8 engagement, totally, I am open to any ideas.
I mean, I think once we put together our view on what we like, I think it would be good to say, we've looked at the profiling. This is what we think we should do. That's the point where it would be useful to go back to the V8 team, right?
Mm-hmm.
So probably out of the, the deep dive and maybe any follow-ons, we should try and clearly identify, like, here's what we think you can do today. Here are the shortcomings. here are the things we'd like to work on, and then we can get the V8 team, find the right people to talk to on the V8 side.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah, for me, the profiling is one of the good candidate for the user journey discussion, because at the moment, if you see, there is no standard way of telling whether you're going to collect the profiling information throughout the life cycle of the application and get the data only at the end of it, or is there any way you can stream the data and being able to generate insight from instantaneous piece of data, etc. Those kinds of things are not necessarily coming from the user journey, but from the developers as they provide the tooling capability and then retrofit into the specific use cases. So definitely, I believe this should run through the user journey and come up as a set of recommendations or set of concerns, etc., which we can interlock with the team. Makes any sense?
Agreed.
Is there, by the way, anyone who recently was collaborating together with the new V8 team, or I don't know how to call it? Like I heard there were some changes there. I'm just wondering if someone has good connections there now.
I haven't had any good interaction recently, but I think when we're ready, we could talk to Miles. I do remember a name. I might even be able to find that back in email or whatever, but in the worst case, I'm sure Miles can help us with the right people.
So it sounds like they weren't involved with Diagnostic much recently. What's the case with the main repo? So are they involved there or not really?
Well, that's what I was thinking of on the main repo. Well, go ahead.
If you ping the V8 team, they reply usually within a day or two. But I noticed they have been less proactive in the repository.
Okay, so it's likely if we collect the gaps and ping them, then they are going to maybe not help with them in terms of work, but they are going to collaborate with us, but they are not going to proactively look into things. Sounds like that.
There's a chance, yes, that we will have to send pull requests. But if we align with them before and agree that those pull requests will land, I think that's better than sending pull requests blindly.
Yep.
Also,
yeah, I think we'll be able to figure out who the right people are. Just
Yep.
it may not be the same as the past.
I think it's Don who is currently working as a bridge between V8 and Node.js.
And that's a good place to start.
Also, since we are talking about diagnostics, there might make sense to reach out to the Chrome DevTools team, since the underlying features that we need for diagnostics are the same that they need for DevTools. For example, the V8 CPU profile is used on DevTools, so is the heap profiler, so is the heap snapshot. And they might have more bandwidth to work on that than the V8 team.
That's a good point as well.
Okay, so it sounds like the plan would be that we make this user journey next week. We are going to probably identify some gaps, and there are some other gaps and open items or earlier that we know it's we want to change. So maybe we should write them down in, I don't know, some easily consumable format, and then pinging both the V8 team and Chrome DevTools team. Maybe we could invite them to one of our weekly meetings and figure out how we are going to collaborate on that and who is going to be the champion. That's basically what we discussed.
Yes.
Okay. So it sounds like if we do the deep dive on next week, then maybe in a month it's realistic to organize a meeting with them.
Makes sense.
If there is no more what we can discuss about CPU profiling, then we can go to async hooks. And Stephen, do you want to talk about it? I know last time you shared a lot. I don't know if you have more to share or changes.
Yeah, I should have a bit less to talk about than last time, just updates mostly. There is a first thing that's related to NAPI make callback has, or again, NAPI make callback has an issue with the execution async resource stuff. Adds an extra resource argument to the make callback function, which currently the resource is not included in the async context object. It's stored on a wrap because it would have been a breaking change to put it on the async context. But because of that, the NAPI stuff doesn't currently understand resources properly. So there's a pull request made, but I'm not completely sure if it's safe. I could maybe use some eyes from someone that knows a little more about like the just like ABI promises of the like NAPI stuff.
Right. In terms of the
it's swapping out the async context struct for a new class, and I'm not sure how safe that is.
right.
As far as I know, it's not changing any return types, but it is changing like an input type.
Right, which means, and who calls this like this? Is this a callback or is it a method that people call?
So it changes like NAPI async inits takes like NAPI async context, which it's like doing a reinterpret cast on that or something.
Yeah, the PR changes the async NAPI async context, the data types, but the NAPI defines the data types as a opaque pointer. So in the terms of the data structure, I think it's safe to introduce this PR since it don't break the API. And there is another PR that tests the fix a false assumption on async NAPI async context. I can post that.
It's 32.930,
32.930.
From
I believe.
Sorry, go ahead.
I believe I have listed the related PR in the description. It's 32.8.1998.
We have a hand raised from Mateus.
Reading the PR, I don't think it breaks ABI because there are no changes to headers.
That's what I was just looking for too. Yeah, I mean that's what as Legendicast said, we tried to make all the handles opaque so we can change what they actually are behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, just wasn't sure because like the shape of the async context class is a bit different from the struct, so I wasn't entirely sure if that's.
Yes, it's not the very identical one to the we exposed through the node.h.
Because you must get it in some way, right? Like there must be a call that says, give me the async context, and then you pass it in to other places.
Yeah, if the NAPI async context is created by a NAPI NAPI async init, I think it can be used within NAPI API later. So
Right.
it's safe to me. Looks safe to me.
So I didn't take notes. What's the outcome here?
It's basically, I think it makes sense that it's okay. We'll just need to get some reviews for it to land, that's all.
Yeah, I think logically the PR is okay. Just I'm not aware enough of the NAPI ABI compatibility safety requirements to know completely.
Yeah, as long as it's basically exposed as a like a handle, which it's just a whatever, you get something and then you get it from one call and you pass it to another call, that is fine. That changes behind the scenes. We've done that before, for example, in other things as well.
Yeah.
But it's good to bring up, and we'll take a look, double check that we're all comfortable that that's the case.
Yeah. Now the next thing I had on my list was I've been working on a fast path for promise hook. So if there's no destroy hook in async hooks, it'll just use a JavaScript implementation of the promise hook handler, which doesn't do any GC tracking and doesn't emit destroy events. So that's I have the PR put together. It seems to basically all be functional. There's one comment I just got since yesterday that I haven't had a chance to respond to yet, but the functionality is basically all there. There's some issues with the test suite not actually running my tests for some reason, but it seems to pass the tests now.
Are there any edge cases in terms of like when you add a destroy hook, like?
So I haven't had a ton of time to do like really in-depth testing of like adding, removing stuff over time. But as far as I know, it should work, I think. It's anytime the what's the function? There's like the setup hooks or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know, enable hooks. Anytime enable hooks is called, it'll like recheck and reapply the promise hook as needed.
I believe there is already a edge case that we introduced before, but I don't remember the exact PR number. That if we add a destroy hook during a resource life cycle, the destroy event will not emit for that resource on the destroy hook.
Yeah, so this will result in switching between two promise hook sets. One is the like old native style, and the other one is the new JavaScript style. Which one of the comments I have on here right now is that if we switch from the hook without destroy to the hook with destroy, like midway through a callback, it's not going to recognize that it now should have a destroy. It's at init time, we'll create if it's in the hook with a destroy mode, then it'll init the promise wrap on the C++ side, and that class has the destroy ability. If it does the init in the JavaScript side, then it's just a regular promise, and it just tacks some properties onto it. So that resource will never be capable of emitting the destroy. It doesn't transition smoothly, which I don't know if that's necessarily a problem or not. I don't think we currently really have any support for something that was not already being watched by the full promise hook to suddenly start being watched by it.
Right. So this is the case where if you created the promise before it was enabled, then it wouldn't, but afterwards it would.
It's specifically if you have it enabled with no destroy hook, and then you enable it with a destroy hook. So it's enabled in both situations. Right. It's just you've now added a destroy hook, but until that point, it didn't have the destroy hook, so it wasn't attaching any of the stuff to do the GC tracking to be able to do destroys.
Right. So all existing promises just wouldn't emit it. Yeah. So that may just be an existing way it works, worth documenting, but I'm not necessarily any different with what you've got.
I'm not sure if there's a good way to, we could possibly upgrade the promise, when we do the switch, the next event we see, if we see this isn't a promise wrapped thing, then we can upgrade it maybe somehow. But not entirely sure about that approach.
I guess it would be
what's
the use case?
It's hard to downgrade it as well.
Right. It's kind of like, what's the use case where you add in a hook later on, like a destroy hook later on, right?
Yeah.
And if you weren't tracking the destroy before, do you really need to destroy to track it for those ones either, right? It may be perfectly fine that you only track new stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, I was just curious. It sounds like you've thought about it though, and there are questions and stuff. That was my main question.
Yeah. I'm just gonna have to do some more testing and figure out if it's reasonable to just leave it as it is. I think it probably is, but yeah. Someone else has the reviving zones proposal stuff. Don't know what we want to do about
that. I would like proposing the reviving the zone proposal, and we have discussed in the issue that since the proposal's motivation doesn't have overlapping with other proposals, so we can proceed on the loans like proposal. And another concern that raised that is how should error handling be included in the proposal? And we have a consensus in the issue that we can leave the proposal lightweight and only include the async context. So maybe we can maybe you can try to present the proposal in later on implicate in TC39 implicator code. So we have to prepare the proposal context, proposal text before the incubator code. Maybe on May 12th, I believe.
There's also been like various efforts for upgrading the domain stuff to use async hooks. I don't know how relevant like what we're doing there would be to like just mapping out like a possible approach to the like what to put in a proposal.
The issue around the domain is that they are handling mainly on error handling. So I believe if we are not going to include, we are not going to address the error handling issue in this proposal, we can safely maybe we can safely skip the domain issues on the proposal.
Okay. Thanks for the update. Is it you who is going to make this proposal, or who is working on it?
I can go to propose it, and I'm looking for some anyone if anyone is interested in on this proposal too, we can both proposing both champion on this proposal on TC39.
It would be good to synchronize with the OpenJS standards team. They have regular meetings, and just and I know a number of the people there are involved in TC39 as well.
Yeah, this sounds promising. I can get in touch on them.
Okay. If you have any trouble finding them or the repos, let me know and I can point you in the right direction.
Yeah. Thank you. I will get in touch with you if.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. Thank you. If we don't have other topics for today, then we can give back 15 minutes to us. Is there anything we should discuss? Okay, I take it as a no. Then we are going to meet next week for a deep dive, and the week after that, the regular meeting. So see you next week, and thanks for coming today. Have a good one.
See you then.
Bye.
See you.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thanks. Bye.